We're going to take a quick look at DEI and why it's important, a little bit of the history, and its pushback. Let's get into it.
Funding to make up for those losses, disaster and otherwise, within 3 to 5 business days. It is remarkable. By the way, when Biden tried to do this, they got caught up in DEI and trying to prioritize farmers based on skin color and all the other divisive stuff. All of that is now out the window. We are prioritizing getting money out to our farmers and our ranchers that need it, that have to have it to move forward, to plant this season. And I'm really proud of our USDA team for doing such a great job.
I can just about guarantee you, whatever someone from Trump administration is saying, is at best spin. So in other words, black and brown farmers, you're probably about to get screwed, and screwed royally. All that money is going to go to good old Christian single or Christian family white men. I got more clips for you.
Rolling back diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives has been at the top of his agenda. He's issued executive orders that target DEI programs, dismantling decades of federal anti-discrimination policy. For Black History Month, John Yang explores the origins of DEI in America in our latest installment of Hidden Histories.
Long before DEI became a household term, there were other efforts to move toward equal rights for all Americans. Some of the earliest were in the late 1800s during the post-Civil War Reconstruction era. As Southern states enacted Jim Crow laws making segregation in public spaces legal, Congress established the Freedmen's Bureau. It provided formerly enslaved people basic necessities, helped them look for jobs and acquire land of their own. In 1866, President Andrew Johnson vetoed legislation to enforce those amendments, arguing that it discriminated against white people. And pressure from white Southerners led to the closure of the Freedmen's Bureau just 7 years after it had been established. Nearly a century later, Black Americans were still battling racism and discrimination. Led by icons like the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., they united during the Civil Rights Movement, pushing back against the systems that excluded them. At the height of the movement, John F. Kennedy became the first president to call for affirmative action, using the term in an executive order targeting racial bias in the hiring practices of government contractors. In 1964, President Lyndon Johnson signed the landmark Civil Rights Act, which banned employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. By the 1990s, a backlash had emerged over affirmative action. Voters in California, Washington State, Michigan, and Arizona banned its use in public employment and higher education admissions. Then, May 25, 2020, George Floyd was killed by Minneapolis police, igniting months of protest across the nation and around the world.
Stand up, fight back!
Racial justice was back in the nation's collective conscience, this time with support from large corporations. Many of them created DEI committees and pledged to invest billions of dollars to promote racial equity. But companies began ending these initiatives after the Supreme Court in 2023 banned affirmative action in college admissions. Last month, Target joined the growing list of companies pulling back on their DEI commitments. At the same time, though, employers like Costco and Delta Airlines are doubling down on theirs. Today, DEI has become a political lightning rod, but its roots run deep in American history, and the quest for equity and justice goes on.
Earlier, I spoke to Sean Harper from the University of Southern California's Race and Equity Center. I asked him to explain how the current debate surrounding DEI fits into its broader history.
I think that this is a very particular moment in which the 3 letters DEI are being scapegoated, villainized. Everything is being blamed on those 3 letters. But as it turns out, most polling shows that most Americans actually believe that diversity is a good thing for our country, that people ought to be treated equitably, and that workplaces and retail environments and schools and so on ought to be inclusive environments. So the sort of broader ideals of DEI very much remain at the American core, but it's just that those 3 letters, the 3-letter acronym, is being politically scapegoated during this time.
Why has it become so politicized?
let's rewind almost 5 years ago when Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd, and we all saw it play out via Darnella Frazier's video footage. That forced a global reckoning with structural and systemic racism here in the United States. That was a conversation, frankly, that most Americans didn't care to have, and they were certainly unprepared to have it, but yet they were dragged into it. So what we saw almost immediately, after that summer of racial reckoning, if you will, was a bit of an allergic reaction. Well, that allergic reaction then became legislative as states across the country began to, defund and ban the teaching and learning about diversity, equity, and inclusion in schools and DEI offices. So, I don't blame the whole thing, obviously, on Derek Chauvin's murder of George Floyd, but it certainly marks a pivotal chapter in our nation's history.
All right, people, do not let people on the right convince you that things have changed, like when the year 2057 or something, and it's just, perfect. No one sees color anymore. That would be great. That would be awesome. Should have happened 200 years ago. But it hadn't. And that's one of the reasons we still need DEI initiatives. It was a shame about affirmative action. It's never about what Republicans say it is. It's not about throwing someone else out and putting someone who doesn't deserve it in. It's about giving that person an opportunity, a qualified person an opportunity. Lots of times, those people don't even get the opportunity. And that's what affirmative action in DEI is about. A person who's equally qualified. So do not let them fool you and mislead you and gaslight you. It's good to see companies like Costco still trying to do the right thing. Shame on places like Target and Walmart and other places. You don't have to do that. Catering to racists. The first thing that starts happening when an open, supposedly forward-thinking society starts going backwards. What happened in Germany? Let's not forget these things. They would like for you to forget these things. What's happening now shows why we need these initiatives. Coming up with all kind of cock-a-banging things. DEI was the reason for crashes. No, the reasons for crashes were you fired people from the FAA when you actually needed more people. Negligence from the executive office, the two people who run it, and the Republican Congress who just caters to those two people. They're just giving their power away. It's really a shame to see this country, go by the side and be a laughing stock to the real world. What I mean by the real world is the forward-thinking world, the first world, which we were the leaders of. But make no mistake, we are not the leaders of that anymore. But that's what's happening with DEI. And the first part is why it's important. Because they're going to screw farmers so they can screw. They're going to give money to people who they think is going to vote for them. Not all of them. Make no mistake, they're going to get screwed again too, like they did before. They're going to keep voting for them. It's really a shame. But that's all I have for you today. Systematic racism, still strong, people. Thanks for watching.